So last year we spent about €1 million trying to make AI fashion photography work. We had a team, we had the tech, we had real clients, we could produce, a single image at break even. And this is a story how we kind of fail at fashion and what it actually costs us and what we found on the other side, which I think is really important for people to understand. So quick context is the first time you're here. I run RunFlow. Before that, I built BetterPick, an AI headshot generator, which is still up and running. We took it from 1.5K per month all the way to now we've done around 3 million in revenue, 35 million headshots, and 87% gross margins. Now, we had a playbook that worked. We had quality scoring, smart GPU routing, workflow automation, smart people. So we looked at the fashion market and thought, same playbook, bigger market, right? We called it Better Studio because, better pick, better studio, why not? And here's what we built. So we had a full enterprise platform for fashion brands. We actually started off just, very niche into the SME market. Then we kind of went into enterprise because we had many learnings from there as well, but that's for another video. We had product analysis, digital twins. So we were making twins of real people for, creating fashion campaigns, styling engines, AI generations, automated editing, Q&A loops, the whole thing basically. So we did a lot of tech work over there. We hired about 15 people, opened enterprise pilots, built custom workflows for every client. And then, when you kind of sit down and you look at the numbers were telling you something very different in that sense. So the first client was, actually not the first one, but like one of the ones that we're quite successful with was a dress brand. And it kind of should have been easy. Just dresses, simple garments, minimal accessories, because we told them, because they wanted to have accessories. We're like, let's skip that for now and let's move that to another second sprint, I would say. And so we generated about 3,200 shots in that sense, give or take, in order to get to around 54 usable images. So that means that we had a usable rate of around 2%. So 98 out of 100 were basically just sent into trash. And that was just really bad. Back in the days, we didn't have an automatic Q&A system, so we had to do this manually. So this is a manual process of person going into all of these 3,000 shots and just like navigating and seeing which one was right, basically. We had another client, 607 shots. We got 69 usable images, kids brands out of the 88 that we delivered. So 88 out of the 190 images that we delivered just completely got back. So we got to the stage where the client was like, this is great. Suddenly another person looked at it and was like, no, back to the drawing table. That was around 88 images we had to fix through manual editing in that sense. So we were manually going hand by hand and fixing those images basically. So our cost per image was just tremendous. Like it was crazy how high that was. And our selling price back in the days was around 5 to 10 euros, depending on what image it would be. And so basically every single image we were shipping was subsidized out of the runway. So now you might be thinking the problem was the AI models. Maybe the next Nano Banana 2, 3, 4 is going to solve these things. But it wasn't. The quality wasn't good enough and the models weren't ready. That was not it, basically. The models could produce stunning individual images. The problem was everything else around it. So here's what I didn't understand about fashion photography until I burned through €1 million learning it. And I hope that kind of lesson comes back to you so you can take it from there. A real fashion shoot has around 5 brains making decisions at the same time when you're in that photo shoot. So the model knows how to pose because she's done it thousands of times. The photographer handles the camera, the lighting, maybe sometimes that's even 2 jobs. The stylist fixes the zipper in 2 seconds. So if the zipper is too much up and it doesn't make sense, then it just goes down and it's just like a split second. The creative director watches the overall look and retouch or cleans it after. So you have all these roles, and sometimes you have less roles, bigger roles, but you still have some kind of roles into that photo shoot. And all of the decisions happen in a fraction of a second. So nobody's talking about them. It just happens. So, it's a very natural product of like, okay, zipper up, zipper down. And AI kind of centralizes all of that into 1 or 2 people who have never made those calls alone. in that sense. So when you're the photographer that is maybe generating on your own, the creative director, you've never had to think about like, should I put the zipper garage up or down? Some people have these written rules. Some people don't actually have these written rules. So every single detail became a decision you have to explicitly encode. And sometimes you don't even have that encoded. Zipper up, zipper down, how many buttons are showing, is the logo visible, what's the exact garment length, how does the fabric drape when the arm is raised. So a stylist on set handles this in seconds. In AI, it's a parameter that you have to take into consideration when you're building AI fashion shoots. So, even when you get to 90% of the images of the parameters right, the image is still unusable. It's basically like, multiplying by 0 in that sense. If you don't get everything right, you still have 0 in that sense. Because that 1% is the thing that the client will notice, and also the consumer will notice. And that is an important factor to keep in mind. We had one client we called the steaming cup story. I love to tell it. One client rejected an entire digital twin image. Everything was correct, except that the steam was too much on the cup, basically. So it was too steamy on the cup, and that's why the image got rejected in that sense. And it sounds funny afterwards, but at the moment, I can assure you, when you're going through multiple rounds, it's not that funny in that sense. It's a symptom of something really deeper. So when a client knows an image is AI generated, they see every single detail that could be different. Because when you're taking the shot, technically everything is correct because you're pulling it with a camera. When you're doing that with AI, it's not the case. Almost everything could go wrong at the same time. And so traditional photo shoots run less than 3% rejection rates, give or take. We were at some point hitting 30-50% rejection rate and going back to the drawing table. So we weren't really losing to other AI companies. We were just losing to the traditional camera. The old way of doing it still wins when the new way requires more effort, more decisions, and deliver less consistency than they were actually doing already before. Because technically, most of these companies have a pretty decent setup already that is quite automated, unless they just decide overnight to just ship everything away, basically. So I remember this Friday in late February 2026. We were doing a sprint review on a Friday, and the entire call was about bugs we'd fixed, and not even features, not scaling, not clients, just bugs. And at that point, we had 0 recurring clients. We had a few pilots, but nothing recurring. The platform had missed its January deadlines by 7 weeks. Revenue in January was, technically 0. February was $550 with a 15-person team. And I sit down on the call and realized we had 15 people, building a platform. We had never reliably delivered a scale at a single client. And, at that point, I just made the call. Not at that point, but actually on Saturday, we had an important call to make. We decided to go back from 15 people all the way to 9 people, give everyone, a fair severance package, help people find new roles. But, it is just still a very bad feeling of like, as a leader, just, having to make that call and seeing great people, not bad people, great people, part of ways, basically. And so then I kind of picked up the phone, called every investor. I WhatsApped and said, hey, I really want to jump on a call. It was not a Slack message. I personally went into everybody's, DMs, and you call them and you say, that the thing that they backed isn't working. And surprisingly, most of them were super supportive. Some of them were angry, which I understand. I'd probably be angry too, because you believed in a vision and that vision is changing. But the reaction that surprised me the most was that our lead investors didn't even fully understand what we were going to build next. But they just believed in the team and how we were handling things. And that meant more than I can say. And that was just a blessing in disguise, because that means that they will back us up for whatever we're building next in that sense. Because honestly, at that point of time when we were pitching it, we didn't even understand we were going to build next. So here's the twist. Well, Better Studio was burning through cash, trying to make fashion work at a 2% usable rate. The infrastructure underneath BetterPick was quietly running at 87% margins, fully automated, processing 100,000 jobs a month on open source models. And we're like, there's probably something in there. And we called it Better Infra back in the days for the lack of a better name, just to stay in tune. Better Pig, Better Studio, Better Infra, why not? And we still had that. And the quality scoring system was there. The GPU routing was there. The workflow orchestration was there. The deployment of pipelines. We built all of it to solve our own problems. And when everything else fell apart, that was the layer that was still up and running without ever touching it in that sense. So we looked at what was left and asked, what do we actually have here? What's like when you look in the box and you're like, what do we kind of have here that we can still use in that sense? And the answer was this. A production grade infrastructure, AI infrastructure layer that nobody else had in the market or was never building. Everybody focused on the models, but nobody actually focused on the workflows around those models, because that we know worked for us when we were launching BetterPick. So we rebranded, not Better Infra anymore. We called it Runflow, and we were up and running basically. And so the lesson is the same one from the first video, but you've now seen the scar tissue that we have from building this all out and how we got to this point. We learned that at BetterPick, where it made us, close to $3 million. We forgot that Better Studio, where it cost us $1 million. And now we're building Runflow to make sure nobody else has to learn it that way. That you shouldn't be focusing on the models, but everything around the models, the workflows, the UX, the orchestration, basically, that is still the most important thing that you can build as a founder. Because the model was never the product. Like Nano Banana 2, 3, 4 will come out and things will improve. But it's the workflow that is going to be eventually our product, but the scalable thing that you'll be able to adapt in your product in that sense. Because the workflow is what makes AI work. And sometimes you have to lose a lot of money to remember that. I hope you don't. So that's why we're building Runflow. But yeah, if you're building with AI and you're hitting walls and probably feel like they should be solvable, they probably are, just maybe not the way that you're thinking about this. So yeah, this is part 2 of the series that we're creating, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.